Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to have a look at another Roco locomotive. This is a Deutsche Bahn class V200, or also known as a class 220, and in Switzerland they're known as the SBB AM 4-4. SBB is Schweizer Bundesbahn, Schweizer for Switzerland. So the V200, now this locomotive, it's very influential locomotive type on other developments of locomotives around Europe. It's had a really long career, and still today in Germany this locomotive is very iconic. As I said, it's the V200 locomotive. Now, the builder was a company called Krauss Maffei, and in 1953-1954 they built 5 prototypes, and then in 1956 Krauss Maffei and another company called MAK, they went into full production of this class of locomotive. 86 of them were built, 86 of this locomotive type, and these are diesel hydraulic. They have 2 prime movers, so 2 engines at either end of the locomotive, and they are Maybach MD engines. Now, if that name is familiar to you, that Maybach diesel engine prime mover is in some of the British prototypes that were built for the Western region. So I'm just going to show you here. So the Maybach engine would have been in the likes of the class 42/43, and don't get confused with the HST 43. Some of these class 42s were also class 43s. This class 42, pretty much all of the class had a Maybach engine, bar 2. They were fitted with a Paxman Ventura engine, and the other British diesel locomotive type that had the Maybach engine is the class 52 Western. So you get the Western and the Warship. So I'll just get them back to the V200, Deutsche Bahn V200. Now, as I said, 86 were built. They were built for mainline use. So they were replacing the likes of steam locomotives in Germany. So that would have been the classes, 01, 03 and 05. They were Pacific type locomotives, fast, high speed steam locomotives. So Pacific types, that's the 462 wheel arrangement, and as I said, they ran mainline. But the top speed on this V200 was only 87 miles per hour, which is really interesting, like a high speed locomotive, and it only does 87 miles an hour. Very strange. They started retiring these locomotives in 1984, and that was due in part to the electrification of railways in Germany, and in 1962 they started replacing these diesel types with more, very much more powerful diesel types. So really interesting locomotive. But that wasn't the end of the story for the V200. So as I said, they were retired in 1984, but after serving for the Deutsche Bahn, a lot of them were sold overseas, and obviously sold overseas to other railway companies and reclassified. But they operated in places like Saudi Arabia, Italy, Greece, Spain, France, Switzerland, as I said, Algeria and Albania, which is like unbelievable, the reach that this locomotive had a huge reach right across Europe. And even in Germany today, they operate this locomotive on heritage trains. So very iconic locomotive within Germany. So anybody in Germany that's into railways, they're into model railways, they're gonna know this locomotive type. It's very influential. So a diesel hydraulic, and as I said, it did influence other locomotive types throughout the likes of Yugoslavia and Spain, but as I said, also in Britain. So if you're bringing the class 42 here, and we just compare them, even in terms of the body, they're quite similar. And of course they both have the Maybach engine, so very influential locomotive. So I said, I'm going to get this on the track. We're going to do lots of running this locomotive. I'm going to have a look at the detail on this locomotive by Roco, the Austrian manufacturer, and see what you think of it. Really good runner, very good runner. So let's get into it. I'm going to go get the camera in close, try and get some really good shots of the detail and lots of running on the track. So I hope you enjoy it. Now, as I said, this is made by Roco. Unfortunately, I don't have the box for this locomotive. I actually picked this locomotive up at a model railway exhibition up in Dublin in a place called Booterstown. And off the main hall, there was separate rooms where private sellers were selling model railway items, and I picked this up. Actually, the guy that sold it to me was only a young chap. His father had passed away, and he was selling off all his model railway equipment, and he said his father had actually looked after his trains very well. And I said, listen, I'll buy it off you. How much do you want? And we did a little bit of bargaining, and I picked it up for €40, which is next to nothing really. It's about £37 sterling, so that's a really good bargain. And this locomotive by Roco, it's very, very high quality. It does have lights. You can see the lights at the front, but the thing is you have to run at quite high speed to see those lights. It has an older style bulb in it. Has, if I can show you, metal buffers. It's got the European style of coupling there. It has the DB logo on the front and the running number V200, which is the class, and then 035. I think that light at the front lights up as well, but as I said, when it's running, it's very hard to see them. And then it's got this lovely painted decoration on it. It's almost like a V kind of style to the front. It's really cool looking, and even the shape of the cab is really, really interesting. The cab sits up really high, and it's like that in real life. Very, very cool. The windows are all kind of have frames picked out. There's little wipers there as well. I think that might be the warning for overhead electrification wires. I think those rails on the cab door are actually made of metal. Small step there, and the bogies are not too bad really. One nice detail, this locomotive is very, very heavy. This is HO scale. She's not a very big locomotive, but I'm going to pop her on the scales and you'll see how heavy she is. I'm just trying to remember from the other day when we were weighing some locomotives. I'll try and gauge it, how heavy she is. There are, even despite the weight of this locomotive, there is traction tyres on it. There's one there, and I think there's one there. There's only 2 traction tyres. It really doesn't need them, but a lot of the European manufacturers, they just seem to put traction tyres on the locomotives. There's a further window there, just behind the cab door, and then there's these 2 big windows and a kind of representation of the engine compartment, which is a kind of nice thing to do. And it has all this detail on the lower section of the body, printed detail, Deutsche Bahn in large writing there. Grills going along the top of the roof. They're quite nice. Most of this model is actually made of metal as well. The other end is exactly the same. The roof there has, this is a plastic section, this grey section on the roof, it's all plastic, but there's a lot of mould detail. You can see all the grills, and as I said, this is twin engined Maybach, 2 Maybach prime movers. Has these screws in the roof. It doesn't really bother me that there's screws in the roof. This roof section comes off, and you can gain access to some of the locomotive. It doesn't give you much access. I'd say there are further screws underneath now, and I haven't really opened this properly. But she runs very well. very, very well. And the other end of the locomotive, exactly the same. There is a driver in there. You can see there's a driver in there. And yeah, I love the colouring. It's excellent, you know. It's kind of a dark grey, two types of grey, and you've got this kind of deep red colour. And some stripes. Just before those grills there, you can see white stripes, and lower down near the bottom of the body. So I'm going to put her on the scales here. As I said, this locomotive weighs a ton. It's quite unbelievable. So I'll switch this on. Should we be back in grams? Yes. Let me put this on, and we'll just weigh this. I'll show you. So put her down nice and gently. 657 grams. 658? No, 657. Yeah, very heavy. And she's got some rumble when she's moving along on the track, I can tell you that. It must be a very powerful motor. I haven't opened this motor up, but I have a feeling it has flywheels in it. She's a very smooth runner. And you can I'll just zoom in here, you can have a look some more of the detail there. There's all kinds of things going on, all kinds of printed detail. Presume these are some kind of, maybe something to do with the fuel tanks, I'm not quite sure. You can see the engine compartment there. Yeah, not too bad on the, these are some kind of springs here, I'd imagine. Of course, this is diesel hydraulic. Has the European style coupler and nice metal buffers. So let's get her on the track. Let's do lots of running in this and see what you think. Some amount of weight in her, 657 grams. Okay, and there you have it again, Roco. Brilliant, brilliant model railway manufacturer, and I do recommend Roco. I would love to pick up some more models by them. And as I said, I got this for a steal, €40, so I was absolutely delighted with that. Okay, let's get her on the track and see how she performs. So I have her running at about 40% on the Gauge Master Combi. I have two other locomotives running on the other line on DCC. One's the, she's coming into shop now, class 42, which was inspired by the V200. And then, going to be passing it now, we have the class 52. As I say, you can't really see the lights on this locomotive. Has a kind of a traditional style bump on it. I can run up to 5 locomotives on the same track using the Hornby Select. Just have to plan it well. Can get complicated at times. As I mentioned with the Roco model, the traction tires Roco put on these models, they're very strong. They don't seem to break at all. It's great. Have cleaned the wheels on this locomotive on the odd occasion. As I said, this is a very iconic locomotive, so I'd love to hear from anybody in Germany that is into this V200. This is, you know, have the same kind of following as people would have for the, you know, the HST or the Class 37. You It's quite quiet on the track as well, which is great. Just have that little rumble from the motor. There's the locomotive influenced the warship. Another Maybach engine there. Very popular in the UK, the Westerns. The warship is catching up with the Western there. And that's what I mean, you really have to keep your eye on it when using the DCC select Hornby controller. They catch up with each other. Just took the Western off the main line there because trying to get the footage and keep an eye on these two guys at the same time. It ain't easy. So, what do you think of Roco's Deutsche Bahn V200? Do you like it? I think she's a beaut. Really like this locomotive. I'll be back as soon as I can, and if you tuned in today, I hope you enjoyed this. I've enjoyed doing this video. I like these kind of locomotives. So until then, everybody take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.